For a lot of us, like we have no way to promote our films. So it's great when people write about them. That helps independent filmmakers a lot. In the independent film industry, maybe should have a resource section somewhere to see all those really rubbish cuts that I have made in my life.
Hi, Payal. Welcome to the conversation that you and I are going to have about films, documentaries, and shorts. Thank you so much for taking on the time for the Film Critic Guild. As you know, we do Film Critics Guild is a registered body of film critics across India. We are the only registered guild in India, and we have 58 members from all across the world. And when we constituted the Critics' Choice Awards 7 years ago, the idea was to also award short films, web series, and features across all languages and have this be a platform where work gets awarded regardless of beyond the distinctions of what is mainstream or what is independent. And this year we are introducing a new category which I'm very excited about, which is a category for best documentary. And I because you're also like a great person to just like talk a little bit about both all three mediums or just about films, because you've made 4 shorts, then you went on to make a documentary which is also hybrid in nature. I don't think the classification is quite cut and dried, and then you made a fiction. So I'm just very excited to like get to know what you think about.
I think it's really great what you guys do, because for a lot of us, like we have no way to promote our films. So it's great when people write about them. That helps independent filmmakers a lot.
Okay, the first thing I want to obviously ask you is I want to understand a little bit about your relationship with critics, because I also like most of your films even before All We Imagine Is Light, and congratulations on that,
Thank
obviously.
you.
But even before that, the shorts that you made or the documentaries that you made, you would go like the first place that you would get to see these movies were film festivals, right? Where also a lot of critics are writing about these movies as a way for people to understand, because at a film festival also there's more than say 50 films playing. You also have to like decide what to
Mm,
watch, and when I follow 4 critics who really like a film, it makes me want to go watch it.
mm,
So could you just
yeah.
talk a little bit about your relationship with critics since say your first film till right now?
Yeah, I think I also, like you, follow some critics, and that has also changed over time. There are some people who had matching taste to yours, and then you will follow. Then maybe your taste changes, then you discover new people and things like that. So I think that writing about film is a really particular craft, and it's not about just summarizing the film, which also happens quite a lot.
Yeah,
So when it's a good critic, it's like, even in good meaning, I don't mean in terms of liking the film or not
yeah,
liking the film, but writing about it in a way that places it in the zeitgeist, in the society that we are in, and kind of helps an audience, not helps, but it's like adds to the connection between the audience and the film. I find that to be really a very important part of our film ecosystem.
do you read reviews of your own films?
I do read quite a lot of reviews, and I also read a lot of Letterboxd. And then I feel
Letterboxd is
sad
the
because
Letterboxd
people
feels
are
like the
really
new,
sassy on
yeah,
Letterboxd.
Letterboxd is like the new social like a meeting
Yeah.
ground for everyone.
But a lot of critics also post on Letterboxd, so you get to see like the some reviews there. So that's also interesting. Yeah, I do read my reviews.
I remember reading a Letterboxd review of All We Imagine Is Light, where it was just one line. Someone wrote, "God, I love women," and it made me laugh because I think okay, that is actually a very nice way to kind of summarize what the film is about. Have you read anything on Letterboxd that has made you like laugh or you liked about All We Imagine Is Light or any other of your films?
Oh, there was one that was really good, but right now I can't remember it. It was really cute. Like two, three lines only, these sassy ones, but they're
Yeah,
cute
yeah.
also.
And people really think on like they're too funny sometimes, I think, because they really
Yeah,
think
because
that
now they also get the likes. So as
yeah,
soon as that happens, they
yeah,
want to be more clever.
yeah.
But yeah, I think, but even for Night or Knowing Nothing, there are people right, and that can be interesting, because the reason I follow it is also to see how other people in different countries think about the film and what they get. So how somebody in Taiwan, for example, will think about the film, or in Thailand, or different places where you don't get to go to show the film, so you don't speak to the audience. At least this way, people just write what they feel. Some people hate it also, and then they will also go to Letterboxd and write.
Yeah.
So then that will make me spiral into sadness. But I have to take that also.
And are you good at taking that? Have you like built coping mechanisms now?
I don't know. It's always up and down.
Depends on the
So
day.
film is finally you. So
Yeah.
it's but you have to take it, and I'm trying my best to grow as a person.
Okay, I'll just quickly pivot to talking about documentaries now. Has there been, I know you've been on a crazy world tour this year because of All We Manage, right? But have you managed to catch any documentary this year? Or if
I
not, I'll
watched.
rephrase my question. What are your like earliest memories of?
I saw one non-fiction film that I really liked, which was Ben Rivers' film. Uh, the name is a bit complicated. Maybe you can just type it in this video.
Hmm.
Uh, it was a film that I really liked the films of Ben Rivers, and it's like he has been making a film on this one man for 10, 12, 15 years, and he made a short film, then he made a feature film on him, and now 10 years later he's made another feature length non-fiction film, which I really liked. And of course there was Wang Bing's film this year, which
Youth.
was Youth, which was really a very moving experience for me. It was like a almost 4 hours film.
Yeah.
And people who haven't seen Wang Bing, I think it's really important that we watch his work.
Could you tell us a little bit about your earliest memories of watching Indian documentaries? Were there any non-fiction filmmakers that you used to follow growing up, or the first couple
Yes.
of films that you watched?
Yeah, my mother used to take me to films division to watch movies.
Hmm.
And we used to see Anand Patwardhan's films since I was a kid. Then later on, I think there was some resurfacing of SNS Sastry, which are incredible films. And if you are a filmmaker in India, you should see those films. Like, they are just full of life. And I remember in school we watched Deepa Dhanraj's films,
Yeah.
which were really
See,
like important for us.
yeah, yeah. And back like you, I also like grew up watching a lot of Anand Patwardhan and Deepa Dhanraj, and that was like how I understood what the medium is and what it meant. And now when I look at it, and back then you would have like screenings at school or colleges where they would show you those films. But when I when I was in college or when I started writing about film, I couldn't find these films anywhere. And then
Oh,
later when Placebo, when Abhay had made Placebo in 2014, that was like I think Netflix's first commission in a documentary, which was there for 2 or 3 years, and now you can find that film on YouTube. Even like Superboys of Malegaon, which is getting a
oh, that's a great
theatrical,
film.
yeah, it's a great film, right? Supermen of Malegaon, which is getting like a fictional film, like they're making it a fictional film this year. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is also available to see on YouTube. And I think that is also like one of the questions that I really like contend with, because of late, yes, there are so many filmmakers including you who are making documentaries that are going abroad and winning awards or earning critical acclaim, but more or less it feels to me like international audiences sometimes are the first audiences even for an Indian film because of the problem with accessing it. And sometimes like most of these films don't get a release in India, and I know like thinking of a release for a documentary is also kind of a pipe dream, right? Because the it's so hard to release anything in India. Forget a documentary, a medium which will get people a few like years more to kind of get into it. What do you think about? Do you think like the access of accessing these documentaries or non-fiction cinema in India is getting a little easier? How did you approach it when you were making A Night of Knowing Nothing?
They didn't show it much anywhere abroad also, Night or Doing Nothing. It's not like it was shown in some great way anywhere. It was mostly only in film festivals. And here also it showed in Mami, it showed in IFFK and a bunch of other festivals. And a lot of colleges showed the film on their own initiative. A lot of cinephiles just took the file from me and showed it, which is fine, which is how I like to do also, like, especially because that film, I had the distribution rights in India, so I could do what I wanted to
Yeah.
do, more or less. So we were just giving them out to people. Some people did like screening in their house with some friends and this kind of thing. So if people wrote to me, I was always happy to give them the film to show wherever. That is one way also, I guess, like
Yeah.
you just respond to whoever is interested and send them the film. We did it in a lot of media departments in different colleges. We did 2 screenings in FTI. Yeah, we did quite a few screenings, but I mean, I think for nonfiction, it's hard everywhere, and that's a little bit more experimental. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's a big struggle. But I think Shaunak's film, for example, like it's a film that it's very like it did really well even in terms of circulation, and it was on TV, which I
Yeah.
think is really good. So I think maybe things are changing. People are trying to show nonfiction also, and it's just a hard distribution landscape here
Yeah.
in India.
And we
So
don't
like
have any distribution channels beyond like
yeah.
in theaters.
Yeah, like earlier the films division used to be there. Then the experimental cinema, what is it? That theater is
Experimental.
there.
Yeah.
And like there they used to show films in the film festival, and like there are I think there should be more like spaces, but instead of being more, they just became less and disappeared.
Yeah.
So it's a bit sad. Like it would be nice if in different parts of in the country, different parts of Mumbai also there were more maybe if exhibitors were okay to do one show maybe a
One
day,
show. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
maybe 2 shows a week, which were not the mainstream films. If they were documentary, then I think people who really want to go will go.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too hopeful. I don't know.
But I mean, you have to be hopeful after a point to want that, more people are watching films that kind of stray from the mainstream or the conventional idea of what a film should be. I want to talk a little about A Night of Knowing Nothing. I know you've said in multiple interviews that when you all started making the film, you all didn't know when you all were making the film, because at that point it was just going out and shooting footage. So when, say, after you came up with the idea of, say, making it maybe more of a hybrid film with like the voiceover and editing it a certain way, how do you approach, say, a non-fiction film or something that's supposed to be documentary? Is it image first, or is it like words first, or what you're trying to say?
I think it's all together. It's hard to kind of distinguish because as for me, I work in a way that is very like process driven. So
Hmm.
it's you just I do a lot of trial and error. I put things together. I put text and image and sound, and then I see how it goes. So that's basically my process. And I really like to mix fiction and non-fiction. It's for me, it's the way I studied cinema, and I think that has kind of crept into how I like to make films also. So it's not, I think it's not very like, I can't say that this is first. Obviously, in Night of Knowing Nothing, it was a kind of dire uh, feeling, like just a kind of a need to
Hmm.
put this in a film.
Hmm.
It was coming from that kind of collective. I don't even know the word for it, but this we had to do this.
Hmm.
So it was feeling like that for us. Sometimes I feel that if I didn't have a producer, I'd be still making it. But it was also the right time, I think, that we finished it and put it out because it was important for us to kind of make it at that point.
I know you talked about like if you didn't have a producer, you would still be making it. Talk to me a little about how did you go about, like, when you are a filmmaker in film school, when you were making shots and you wanted to make a documentary, how did you go about like figuring out how to, not just like figure out how international grants work, but also finding a producer? Was that did you know people you could talk to who could like guide you, or it was all like trial, you had to figure it out yourself?
Yeah, like I think we don't get enough information,
Yeah.
and I feel that maybe something that we as a collective, as all of us who work in this industry, in the independent film industry, maybe should have a resource section somewhere where young people like who are starting out can go read that resource section. just if people are watching this, some festivals do have resource sections. Like IFFR has a resource section, which I really followed a lot because they have like a whole page of grants. So
Yeah.
I would read that, and then I made like a list for myself, what I can apply to, what I can't, when is the deadline, what I need for it. So I made like a chart 10 years ago. Now it's a long time. I think that has become obsolete. Many of those are over, new ones have
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
So like that, I think that's a good way. So I was doing that to begin with. And then at Berlinale, I met my producer, who I really got along with. And in spite of us being from different countries, I felt that we had the same kind of interest in similar cinema. So it was quite an organic process to start working with them. And they got like, they knew more about the grants. And at some point, I think when you're directing, you have to let go because you have to start focusing on the work,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it becomes a bit much. So I think that it's really good to find somebody that you trust. And for me, I trusted them also. And like it was like they had made a film before.
Okay. Okay.
So it's not as if like I had this great body of work and they
Yeah.
had this nothing. We were all just starting out, you know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like there were some big producers or something like this.
Yeah.
They had only done a couple of short films or something like that. So we were all in it together, and that was a nice spirit. I think it really helped that that we were doing this journey for the first time
Hmm.
together.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think having resources is a good thing somehow. I wish we could. But yeah, this the all lot of festival websites have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
Like Locarno is really good, like
Yeah.
for their school program.
Yeah.
And Berlin also has some resources. So I think just for people to know that you can access all these websites and collect the knowledge, because it's there, it's available. It just needs a bit of meticulous one,
Yeah.
2 hours of
Yeah. Yeah.
research
Of
work.
like sorting through everything and figuring out what applies to you and not. Because I remember talking to Koval Bhatia, who had co-produced Against the Tide, and
Yeah.
because they had also applied to every grant possible and they had gotten every grant possible. So I remember asking her that, how did you kind of like navigate that? And she told me that what no one tells you about making a documentary in India is that 80% of your time is gonna go in writing grant letters and like application letters, because you have to sell your film before you have started making it yourself,
Yeah,
and
of course. Otherwise, how
that's
to
how
do?
it works. Yeah.
But one thing that I did like appreciate a lot about this grant process is that a lot of times you don't get the grant also. Like I
Yeah.
didn't have
Yeah.
100% success rate. I got a lot of rejections. So those also help with trying to like relook at your project and rewriting.
Yeah.
One of the key things is rewriting, not for the grant particularly, but just so that a lot of times you kind of just go with your first draft, but
Yeah.
that is never like we've done like some 25, 26 drafts.
Yeah.
And sometimes the process of rewriting, whether it's a forced one,
Yeah.
it's a very good one. And sometimes the grant will ask you some question and you're like, hey, I never thought about this.
What about this?
But then you think about it and you're like, oh, this is interesting. And then it leads you in a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which like you might not end up applying for that grant also. But just
Yeah.
the fact that you got asked this question, sometimes
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. 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 I think it makes you think about your project more deeply, I think.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you are asked so many questions, you have to justify so many
Yeah, it's
things.
like
You're like, नहीं मेरे
justifying
को करने का है,
everything.
नहीं ऐसा नहीं है, क्यों करने का है, सोचो
Yeah.
थोड़ा उसके बारे में.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
वो प्रोसेस मुझे अच्छा लगता है.
Yeah. Also, I know you said that you also like to mix a lot of like non-fiction and fiction in your work, whether you're shooting a short or a documentary or a fiction film. But I want to ask you specifically, what is it about the form of non-fiction that really appeals to you? Like, what is something that you can do with non-fiction that, say, you can't with a fictional film? And since you've also made your first fictional film this year.
I think it's a process question because for me it comes down to that. Like in fiction, you have to have everything planned to the T, and like there is nothing left to chance. In
Does it
non-fiction,
also
you can.
feel more like formal, like you're making a film now? In fiction, it's like, okay, you are making.
No, I think it has to do with like you have to convince some set of 80 people to do this.
Yeah.
So there's a different kind of and then you have to finish it. Like अभी वो दिन गया तो गया, देखो वो वापस नहीं मिलेगा set खत्म.
Yeah.
So there is no room for like mistakes or, that kind of thing, at least when you have the kind of budgets that we did. So there is no redo, but I'm very much for redo. So in nonfiction, I go, I shoot, I come back, I edit, then I put it together, I see, then I go shoot some more. Uh, I like this process of, and there's a bit of self-reflexivity also, I think, that comes in that, which I think with fiction you have to be so kind of uh, predict everything. That looseness of back and forth, and like again, because I'm a process person, that I like to edit, I like to see, I like to rewrite, I like to like make the khichdi as it's going. So like for me, that is, everybody has a different personality. And for me that works. So that is why even in this film, in All We Imagine Is Light also, हमने 2 schedule में shoot किया, क्योंकि 2 schedule के बीच I edited. So, but I wanted also to have the 2 seasons. So it was this thing also, but I didn't want to shoot that immediately monsoon is over and 1 month later I'm shooting. So that non-fiction approach I tried to have little bit.
And no, I'm also curious because you're talking so much about you being a process oriented person, and you seem to have a very specific process that you follow. But I'm curious to know, when was it that you actually kind of stumbled onto knowing that this would be a process? I'm curious to know, how did you start out? When you were making the shots also, was your process similar?
Yeah. I was doing, you have to see all those really rubbish cuts that I have made in my life. But
this is something you knew from the beginning? That this
no,
is how you like to work?
Not really. Like, it comes from struggle only, like not struggle in terms of like,
I know.
I'm saying in terms of like, see, when you are a film student, you have to submit something. Now it's really bad and you are a deadline. So you try and you try to salvage it, and you do the best that you can, and then that is the film. And then people look at it and they don't know that you went through that. उनको नहीं पता कि अभी तुम पूरी रात बैठ के उसका पूरा स्क्रिप्ट का कुछ खिचड़ी पकाया, and it's something else now, it's become a bhajia. They don't know that, they see bhajia. So that is, then I realized that actually, like, you have to keep at it till it works. And then I began to kind of enjoy that process.
But then follow-up question to that: when do you know that you can end? Because I'm guessing you can just keep going on and on, right? Like you said, with
you can. That's when the finances come into play. तो फिर पैसा खत्म हो जाता है, तो फिर वो dates आते हैं कि चलो अभी हम institute में भी तो वही था कि हमें we would get like 2 weeks for editing. That is why, like, I think it's good also to have structure. To say that you will only have your computer for 2 months, you better finish your film in 2 months, so that you work towards that, because you're right. Otherwise, I can continue. I can keep doing. So like,
it's like what you said. If you didn't have a producer in All We Imagine, you would still.
Even the other film, I would have been going out. And finally, my producer was like, I think you need to stop. We are out of money. So that's that.
Thank you so much for joining us. And All We Imagine Is Light is still in theaters. Would you like to say anything to people who haven't seen it yet, or who have seen it and should go out and see again?
Yes, please go watch my film. We took a lot of effort to put it in the cinema. It will probably be there till the end of this month. Take your friends, your family, and support independent cinema. I'm not saying that it's some great film, but I'm just saying, like, it's just something we took a long time to make. A lot of people worked on it, and it would be nice if you saw it.